Hello. I'm just going to give a quick little behind the scenes, kind of behind the edits of these band a day in the life videos that I've been making recently, because I've gotten a lot of questions on just like my process of how I shoot them, how I edit them, and I also just want to like show what goes on behind them and just like how I go about editing these clips. I will just edit this one real quick and just show you what goes on. So a lot of people have pointed out these stripy lines. What are they? So this is a feature called dual ISO, and what it's basically doing is the camera shoots at both 100 ISO and 800 ISO. So for in layman's terms and very untechnical terms, basically shooting at a low sensitivity and a high sensitivity at the same time to hopefully regain more dynamic range in post. This is one of my favorite modes to shoot in, just because you can push things so much further than just regular raw video. So let me show you how that works. Wow, it's fixed, except it's super dark. What do we do about that? The answer is simple. Push up the shadows a crap ton. But you see, the nice cool thing about dual ISO is normally when you push shadows this far, it looks like crap. It's horrendous. But since we shot the shadows at 800 already, that means that we can push the shadows to extreme levels and it's still not super noisy at all. There's still a little bit. So what I like to do is I like to go into RE wide gamut, because I like how it handles colors better and it handles noise better as well. Then I turn up the vibrancy, because RE wide gamut is very desaturated on its own. And then I'll change the white balance, obviously. A 5200 is like the base standard for outdoor use. I think it looks the best. Then I'll add a little bit of chroma denoise, which is just basically color denoise, so it doesn't affect any of the luminance values, which let me show you what that does. So if I added luminance denoise, you can see we kind of just lost all the detail in the shot. Versus if I slide this chroma denoise slider all the way up, all the way down, there's virtually zero visible loss in quality. If I zoom in there and I show you no chroma denoise versus chroma denoise, you'll be able to see that the noise basically turns from color to black and white, which you do lose a little bit of color fidelity, but when you have no other option, or if it's shot at the dead of night, it comes super in handy. That's how we turned a shot like this into this. So let's go and play with a clip that was not shot in dual ISO. This clip was not shot in dual ISO. It plays back pretty well. It looks fine enough, but I think it could be a little bit better. There's a lot of crushed highlights. I'd like there to be something a little bit better exposed. So we'll do the same transformation to wide gamut, same increase of vibrancy to 36. The clip was shot in 4,600 kelvins as far as white balance. I think I'm just gonna put it at 5,000 for now. I kind of like how that looks. I want to lean into that golden hour kind of aesthetic. Because we're shooting in RAW still, we still have a lot of flexibility in terms of exposure and in terms of shadow and highlight recovery. And it's not quite to the same shadow recovery as dual ISO, but if we just are reasonable with our expectations, like 25 to 30, like look at that. It's not a ton, but it's enough. And there really hasn't been that much of an increase in color noise at all. And what we do to just eliminate the color noise that is there is just turn up chroma denoise a little bit and a little bit of sharpening, because the image is pretty soft overall. But anyways, there's that shot. And let me just do a night shot. I haven't got into any of the night shots yet, but we'll do one. We'll do this shot here because it looks like it could use some denoising. I just do the same thing I've done on every other clip. vibrancy at 36, wide gamut, chroma denoise, but I'll do it more than I would on the other clips because it needs it. And I don't like to play with shadows in the middle of night because it's dark. This shot I should have exposed better. We're just going to have to live with the grain. I don't care. A little bit of sharpening, play around with this. I think how it was shot was fine enough, and that looks fine to me. Then I can just copy this receipt and paste it on other clips. And maybe I don't quite go as hard on some of these other things. That's basically the process. It's just find something that works, and I shot the things in similar conditions, so I don't really need to change things too much between clips. So I just go through and just paste the receipt and then see if there's anything that needs to be changed. Doesn't look like it. So next, after I'm done with all these clips, I will show you next the editing process. Okay, so now after it's been a week since I exported the clips. That took about 10 hours to export all the clips. And then I've imported all the clips into Adobe Premiere, and I've turned them all into proxy files. So that means that they all have a low resolution version of each clip that will play on the timeline to save processing power so that things go smoothly. Let me just find a frame to show. So if we go up, not that much, maybe like 150, here's proxy on and proxy off. You can see there's a definite loss in quality and a weird color shift, but that's fine. I just keep it on so that it is fluid when I'm scrolling over the timeline. It's pretty simple, all things considered. I dragged in all 170 clips, and generally what I've been doing while I'm shooting is if it's bright enough, then I'll usually set the frame rate to 60, or it's actually like 57, and then if I slow it down to 41.1% of its original frame rate, it'll be about 23.976, which is the NTSC standard in America. Like, that's basically 24 frames per second, so it works out perfectly that way. So all the stuff that I shoot at a higher frame rate for slow motion, I slowed down to 42%. And little known fact is that when I'm shooting in slow motion, the resolution of it is less than 1080p. It says here 1736 by 738. So it's about a 1080p image if you were to cut off the top and bottom from a 16 by 9. So if a 16 by 9 is about the size of this frame, cut that off, and then you get that. And it still looks really nice. And then for the 24 frames per second, just normal speed content, I usually film it at about, I film it in a mode called 4.8K anamorphic. And basically what it does is it takes a video using the entire width of the sensor. It's all squished. What you do is you de-squeeze it in post. So it would actually, the entire image would be squeezed down into something like that. And then you de-squeeze it in post. And this mode doesn't have any crops. It looks really nice. And since things are darker, then I don't like shooting with it. Or I don't like shooting high frame rate in the dark because things just get really messy. But this mode generally looks really nice, really crisp. You can see it here in James. Like, things just look really clean, really crisp. I like it a lot. So I put everything in. I slow it all down to 24, or leave it at 24 or where it's at. But then I usually start looking for music, and what I found to work good for these videos has been somewhat of an upbeat, well, I don't know. It depends on how I feel like these clips go. And I don't know. The whole mood of this video felt really mellowed out. I felt like using sort of an upbeat mellow, and that's where Missing by Beck came in and Broken Drum by Beck. So this first part is Missing by Beck, and then it goes into Broken Drum by Beck, and there's just a simple fade out, fade in between the songs, and that does the trick. Generally, the process of syncing the clips with music is I will just have all these clips in a timeline, and it'll string out into like half an hour, and I just go through every clip, and I've listened to all these songs before. I know where the beats happen. I know what I'm thinking of, where to cut. I just use these musical cues, and then I just crop it down and place it in, move on to the next clip, crop it down, place it in. And I usually just go chronologically throughout the whole thing, because that's, I don't know, like I switch some clips around here and there if they're repetitive, or I feel like it's not a good one to end on if with a certain beat. Like I'm pretty sure halfway through, not halfway through, but after a bit, there's this chorus, not quite a chorus, but he starts humming along, and that I didn't really want to have this clip carry into that, so that's why this clip is pretty short. And I felt like this clip, although it wasn't chronological, I don't think, I put that clip in because I liked how it felt with the music. And there's a couple other clips I moved around, messed with. I deleted a bunch of clips, so I think this probably got trimmed down to about 140 or less out of 170 that I started with. The whole process of going through, syncing them to the beats of the music, it takes a while. It usually takes like it's usually like 2 to 4 hours. It really depends on the video. This one took a lot less time than A Day at Wasatch. I don't exactly know why. Maybe it's a little bit less clips, and especially for this Broken Drum, I kind of just left all these clips. Like I didn't really even cut down any of these clips. Like I did at the like later half. Like these are all, I mean, actually it is mostly synced to music, but I don't know. I like the second half of these videos when it's kind of a slower, more intimate song. To just kind of let it breathe, because this first part, the first part especially, has just been clip after clip after clip after clip, and with really not a lot of time to breathe in between. And then I just like it going into this, where each clip really just gets more like it's the full clips most of the time being shown, or not exactly, but definitely longer than before. Like I would have cut this clip off if I had placed it in the beginning half after like 1 or 2 seconds, versus it has a full like 6 seconds of just breathing room. And I kind of like that for the second half of these videos. Sometimes you just need a time to just slow down. So really nothing extremely complicated going on. The most complicated thing I did was because of the dual ISO mode, the only setback it has is sometimes when you, and this is just like a weird thing of this camera in general, the highlights kind of turn pink. You can see that it's kind of pink here. That's fine. That's dealable. I don't really care that much. But when you use dual ISO, things get weird. You can see there, when things clip really bad, you get this weird, glitchy, pink artifacting. And I'm not sure if there's any fix for it. Fine sometimes, but I don't know. It's really distracting sometimes. So for here, what I did is I tracked on, because I recorded this clip multiple times. So I took the sun from this and I keyframed the motion. I tracked the motion of the sun onto the sun. So as you can see, here it is before, here it is after, and then I just have it cut off right there. That definitely wasn't necessary. It was just more for poops and giggles to see if it works, and it did. Didn't take too long. Then I have this fade out, and then that, just a simple fade in and fade out of the text. Nothing too crazy. And then I just have this adjustment layer that adds vignette. So before and after. I like vignette. It makes a subject pop more. It generally gives more things depth, especially in a frame like that Graber frame. You can see with a shot like this, no vignette, I don't know. It just kind of, I think it gives a little bit of depth. I think it looks a little bit nicer, a little more professional, especially when there's a subject. But that's just subjective. And then after that, I just play through it and make sure everything works. And then I export it. It takes like 20 minutes to export everything. I mostly just wanted to make this to, one, explain processes, but also just to test out OBS and Premiere transcripts.